Welcome to the Somatic Coaching Academy podcast. I'm Ani Anderson.
And I'm Brian Trzaskos. Join us as we explore the science
and art of trauma-sensitive somatic practices and tools.
Strengthen your practice as a coach, therapist, or holistic professional.
Master the art of motivating even the most challenging clients when you understand how to tap into and unlock your client's complete holistic intelligence.
If you want to learn the most cutting-edge, research-supported skills for personal and professional mastery, you've come to the right place. Let's get this conversation started. Hi, welcome to the Somatic Coaching Academy podcast. Here we are for episode 148. Hi, Ani.
Hi, Brian.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, and you?
I'm very good, thank you.
And you? And well?
I wanted to have a conversation with you today about something that's been coming up recently.
Oh, all right. So let's converse. What are we talking about today, Ani?
People are asking about the difference between coaching from a doing state and coaching from a being state. So I wanted to talk about that on the podcast today.
Okay, so what's the difference between those two things?
Well, I think that's what I want to talk about. And so I kind of want to start with this idea around how in the coaching industry, there's so many different kinds of coaches. So it's hard to kind of nail it down because different people orient themselves around different philosophies on what even coaching means. Mm-hmm. I mean, for some coaches, like ICF-oriented coaches, they're going to orient themselves around the fact that everybody holds wisdom within them. The idea around coaching is to help somebody to tap into their own innate wisdom and partner with the client to be able to do that so that the client can kind of make their own decisions. But that's not how everybody thinks about coaching. Like there are nutrition coaches and there are fitness coaches and there are probably every single coach you can possibly imagine kind of coaches. There's ADHD coaches and there's all these different kinds of coaches. And so one of the things we talk about with our students a lot is what they should call themselves as coaches, what they should call themselves and how they should market themselves and talk about themselves. And I think it's important to remember that when we're out there talking about ourselves as coaches, the people we're talking to, our prospective clients, they've had potentially a lot of different experience with a lot of different kinds of coaching professionals.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point, Ani, because think about athletic coaches.
Yeah.
Like athletic coaches, I probably do not believe that their athletes have the wisdom inside of themselves of how to block, tackle, pass, something about football, right?
Right.
So football coaches are not like, you know what to do, go do it. No, they're like, this is how you hold your arm. This is how you step. This is where you do three, those sorts of things. So this is how you do this move in wrestling, or this is how you shoot the basketball. So
right.
The coaching is really driven a lot more from kind of teaching.
Right.
Teaching skills expertise. Or those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So you're right. Just the term coaching can sometimes be confusing and depending on, well, do all coaches believe that everyone has the inherent wisdom inside of them? Obviously not.
No.
Right?
No.
Not all coaching professionals do.
Yeah.
But ICF coaching professionals do, or professional coaching professionals do, or in terms of do you know what I mean? So it gets a little confusing. So this is a good conversation.
It does get confusing. And some people who are listening, some of our listeners are already coaches and, have had their own experience with what it's like to be in the marketplace that can be so confusing. And some people are wanting to be coaches. And there's also people who are listening who want to use coaching skills. And I think that's really important. Like, for example, I get a lot of questions from moms, and they want to know how I can best interact with my family, my kids. And a lot of times they're asking, how do I use coaching skills? My mom was like my first coach. She was really good at asking me questions. She was also really good at giving advice. But that wasn't kind of the coaching skills I'm talking about. That's more the coaching skill, like giving advice would be like the football coach you're talking about.
Right. So I think what makes it confusing is just even when we bring up the term coaching.
What the hell are we talking about?
So giving advice does not mean it's not coaching.
Right.
Because it depends on what kind of coaching you're getting.
Exactly.
So even for someone to say, oh, that's not coaching because you're not approaching it from the inherent wisdom within them actually isn't accurate either.
Correct.
Because coaching in some fields can be giving advice.
Exactly.
And or teaching a skill.
Exactly.
And in other fields, coaching is not giving advice and not teaching a skill. It's pulling forth someone's inherent wisdom.
Right.
So potentially being more clear about what is that a particular coach actually does becomes really important.
Exactly. And this isn't, I mean, we're just like kind of swimming around the surfaces of this conversation about doing versus being right now. It's important. So when the coaching profession came up, a lot of people think that it came to be. A lot of people think it came from sports coaching, but it didn't. It came from the idea of the stage coach. Did you know that?
I remember reading something about this.
So I think what you're talking about right now, about how we don't even really know what coaching means, is interesting, because a lot of people know the term coach from a sports coach. And yet when they created the coaching profession, they created it based on a stage coach and the idea of what a stage coach does, which, by the way, I can't like rattle it off right now. I have to look it up.
Well, stage coach follows the horses.
Oh, well, there you go. Maybe that's part of it.
Horses pull the stagecoach. The coach comes after.
It's not like the stagecoach is like running the operation with a motor.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's like metaphorically like that. But I mean, that right there is kind of confusing. So anyway, I wanted to show an
because it's the same word.
Yeah.
For two different
totally
things.
different ideas.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I actually want to leave the conversation right where we have it, in a mud puddle of confusion.
I want to leave the conversation right now. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Mud puddle of confusion.
The reason I want to leave it here is because I think it's really important for us to remember that people may or may not know what we're talking about when we talk about coaching.
Correct. Yeah. I'm becoming very clear. I'm confused now.
So I just want to leave it there and actually move towards this doing versus being kind of thing. Okay.
Do you think that's why it's important, or do you think it's important in the marketplace to always put a qualifier in front of the word coaching? Like we say somatic coaching.
Somatic coach, life coach, like, executive coach.
Yeah, right. Is that why it's so important to do that? Because then it gives someone an idea, at least gives them an idea about what kind of universe you're working in.
This is a different podcast for me. Yeah. I can answer your question, but I think we should do another podcast about it.
Okay.
It's a whole nother half hour.
Okay.
So this thing about doing versus being. So kind of the same problem with the whole thing that we just got into about how who even knows what coaching means. Your prospects might think it means something different than you think when you're talking about it. There's different ways to approach coaching, from a doing place or a being place. And I think getting clear and understanding where one is coming from as the coach. Let's not even talk about talking to prospective clients right now, or talking to your clients. Getting clear about who you are as a coach is, number one, foundationally incredibly important. And by the way, I have zero judgment about this, because I think both are really important, and important for different people in different places. But what's the difference? So a coach who's orienting themselves around a doing state is more of, like you were talking about this, the sports coach kind of example, or I'm going to use a different example, like a nutrition coach. And by the way, maybe not all nutrition coaches. So I'm not labeling nutrition coaches. I'm saying, think about who you are and how you coach. Do you approach it like this? So I could, for example, be a nutrition coach. And what I've learned in my coach training as a nutrition coach is how to meet a client and help them get to a goal by telling them to do A and B and C and D, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So I'm going to help a client get to a goal by orienting around what they do.
Sure.
That is one kind of coaching. Then there's coaching that orients around the being state. And the being state is different in that how I'm feeling, how I am, who I am, what I value, what I love. Like, there's all kinds of different ways to orient around being state. Informs what I do. And if I'm not happy about what I'm doing, then if I orient around how I'm being or who I'm being, that can change what I'm doing. So back to the nutrition example. Let's say that perhaps, Brian, I'm just pulling examples out of my head. This means absolutely nothing, that you eat too much crunchy cereal.
Okay.
As a
I
hypothetical.
don't know where you'd pull that from.
I don't know. I'm very imaginative. Okay. And you want to stop eating crunchy cereal, right?
Okay.
And so a doing based.
But I don't want to stop eating crunchy cereal.
Just pretend with me.
Okay.
All right. For the purposes of our listeners.
All right. Okay, Ani, I would like to not eat as much crunchy cereal. I've got my fingers crossed down below. No one can see us. So it's like I'm not telling a lie or something like that. Okay.
Okay.
Please help me stop eating so much crunchy cereal, Ani.
Okay. So a coach who's coming from a doing state would do something like say,
Hit me? Okay.
no, I'm going to say something worse. Don't keep crunchy cereal in the house, Brian.
I feel so alone.
I actually feel a little guilty. Okay.
That's because you like the crunchy cereal too.
I do. But, I'm pretending
Hypocrite.
I'm the coach right now.
Okay, gotcha.
And now
Okay.
you're getting angry
I'll
at the
play.
doing-based coaching
Yes, don't tell
that
me
I'm doing.
Take away my.
Don't tell me what to do, which is one
tell
of
me
the
to
reasons
get
why
rid of my
doing-based
crunchy cereal.
coaching is hard for me. But
about-
anyway, we're getting off track.
Okay, got you.
Doing-based coaching is going to go at the level of the action,
Yep,
right?
sure.
Like
the behavior. You're going after
the
the
behavior. Yeah. Get that out of your house. And then like
Eat something
substitute it
different,
with
yeah.
fruits and vegetables or eat celery instead of crunchy cereal. So that's more of the doing based coaching.
Can I put peanut butter on my celery?
Can I put peanut butter on my cereal? I mean, the being based coaching is going to ask questions like, tell me what it's like to crunch, Brian.
I love
right?
the crunch.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so crunchy and munchy, and I can hear it, and I can taste it, and I love the.
And you're going to help the person to
It makes me feel happy.
understand like who they're being when they're interacting with this behavior. I have a different example so we can get off of crunchy cereal here for a second.
I'm attached to the.
I have a story that I love. This was from many years ago. It was maybe the second year we were running our certification program. And I was doing some coaching with the students. And I was doing being-based coaching. And the behavior that the client didn't like was that they were watching too much television. And so I started to talk to them about how it felt when they watched TV and what they were getting out of it. And the action step that we got out of that session was that the client was actually going to watch TV. Let's not say more often because they were already watching it like more than they wanted to, but like they were going to keep watching TV as their action step. And they were going to become aware of when they watched TV, how they felt in their body, specifically how good it felt, where they felt good, and they were going to appreciate those good feelings. So after that client session, which was being done in front of all the students, I had a client send me a direct message immediately. I can't believe you actually just told them to watch more TV and to sit there and like it. Really bothered somebody. And like I understood and I validated where that person was, and they had their own stuff to work through, obviously. But the point was that this person was going to really start to develop an awareness around their being state, who they were being while they were watching TV, so that they could then make the moves if they wanted to, following that experiment, to shift their action to something different. But first, you're really going to see like what's going on in there. We might get involved. I mean, we here at the Somatic Coaching Academy are doing all kinds of things about sensations and feelings. We might get interested in emotions. We might even get interested in things like value and identity, like who are you when you get to sit and watch TV and those kinds of things. And that's really the difference between the doing coaching and the being coaching. I know some of our listeners are interested in hearing about the difference and also want to like find themselves in this conversation, you know? So if you're listening and you're already a coach, what are you? Have you identified yourself like that before to be able to understand the difference? Do you want to add some of the doing coaching or some of the being coaching,
Yeah.
or right? Like
That
balance
was
it
what I
out or
was going
not?
to
Like, I
ask
think
is
that's kind of interesting.
how to become skillful and masterful at knowing when to do the doing coaching versus the being coaching.
Right.
And if we're doing, well, I guess I'm answering my question based on what we had before. There's no right or wrong around coaching, right?
No.
Because coaching can be both
Yeah.
doing focused or coaching can be being focused. I'm guessing though, depending on how you were trained, you may have an affinity for one more than the other, which may mean
Definitely.
that you actually have a negative affinity or a repulsion for one or the other as well.
Exactly.
So could it be that someone gets so identified
Yeah.
with being a being-centered coach
They could be missing something.
that by not doing centered that they're missing something,
Yeah,
or
or vice versa.
becomes a block for them,
Yeah.
or vice versa?
Or vice versa. Exactly. And I think there's real benefit to both. It's one of the things that I love about our certification programs, because like in the level 1 program, people really are learning more about doing coaching by helping people to do somatic practices.
Sure.
Those are
Yep.
things that we do with them. We're more the expert because the person hasn't learned them before. We're teaching them those kinds of things. So there's that doing component in there. There's also other aspects in our programs where we do some doing work. There's also, especially once you get into level 2 and level 3, a bunch of aspects around a being state. Because one of the cool kind of things that I really like about being coaching is it's not just about helping the person to be how they are, but it's also how we are as a coach in our being state that influences the other person, the
Sure, yeah.
coachee, in the coaching relationship. And so it has this like kind of kaleidoscope effect.
Yeah, so
that's
there's
really
some
incredible.
sense of coherence, physiological coherence, entrainment, mirror therapy, or I'm
All
sorry,
that stuff.
mirror neurons, mirror energies, kind of things are happening as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I like your thought about that, about the balance, because for me as a practitioner and what I've noticed for our students, finding that balance is really cool. And one of the things that people say all the time when they do work with us is this is the missing piece. I think one of the reasons for that is because a lot of people have been a part of doing programs before, whether they've been the coachee or even they've been the coach. You know, they're like, this is the missing piece. And one of the reasons for that is because of the coaching from the being state that they get. I mean, there's a few different reasons for that people say that, but I think that's one of them.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that's occurring to me as we're talking about this is oftentimes in level 1, right, in the Somatic Practice Essentials program and the Core Centering Certification program, people will give me scenarios around, well, what if this happens, or what if the client does this, or what if they do this? My answer almost always is from the start is you have to always meet the person where they are. You have to know where your client is or where your class is that you're leading. You have to always meet them where they are. And so it's not only from its coaching of being versus doing state. It's not only like as the coach, how do I want to balance doing and being? It's understanding what my client needs.
Exactly.
Right. And so
Yeah.
I always have to understand what does my client need right now? And I've certainly done coaching where I've gone in and led with the being state, and there's just a block around it. And we need to do some doing coaching
Yeah.
to help move someone, like get off the hump that
Yes.
they're on, to get them into the place where we can go back and do some being coaching again,
Yep.
sort of thing. But it's always about meeting people where they are to help create a more fluid process through the coaching, knowing that resistance is going to come up.
Yep.
Right. So that comes up in every transformational process. So
Absolutely.
every coach is going to meet their client's resistance at some point in time. So as the coach, that gives us an opportunity to decide where is the client right now and what tools, skills, or in this case, being versus doing is more important to do right now to help people move more easily through the resistance they have
Yes.
for the process that they've enrolled in.
Exactly, because resistance is wily. And so having both the doing and the being allows you to kind of wiggle through those tough parts
Yeah.
to be able to navigate the resistance, help somebody get the transformation they're looking for. Because really at the end of the day, that's why we love what we do. We love what we do for the breakthroughs and the transformations that we get for our clients.
Yeah. And that's what the client has paid for.
Exactly.
Right? So the client has hired you as the coach to help them get a new result, and resistance is going to come up that it may look like all of a sudden they don't want that result anymore halfway through the process. So a skillful coach is knowing that balance of how do I meet my client where they are with the doing versus being, to actually help them move that resistance to actually get the result that they have, that they've enlisted for.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thanks for having this conversation, Brian.
Yeah, it's a great conversation.
Really good one. And listeners, let us know what you think about it. You can write us an email, leave us a comment below the wherever you're watching or listening to the podcast. We want to know your thoughts too. And until then, we will see you next week.
Yep. See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope that this conversation will help you improve your practice and change the way you think about your work, your clients, and yourself.
Continue your exploration of trauma-sensitive somatic coaching by listening to more podcast episodes at somaticcoachingacademy.com. You could be the trusted guide that people turn to help them with their most challenging situations and to reach their most precious goals. Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next time.